Without a map, she stood at yet another intersection, surrounded by questions wherever she looked. Signs, options, choices, decisions all around. Her white, untied shoelaces melted into pavement. The light skipped from green to red, from red to green. Unsure of her next step, she took none. Left, right, no end in sight. Straight ahead? She thought about turning back. Green to red. The road most traveled or the less taken? Scared of getting lost without a map of what's next, she failed to see her standing stillness was already her chosen path. Welcome to the Memento Mori Lab podcast. I'm Myra, your host and aspiring writer friend. Today's episode is all about decisions. As creative human beings, decisions are a part of our lives. I don't think we realize how many decisions we make in a day, let alone the impact they have long term. Many people struggle with making decisions. Personally, I'm a very indecisive person, and so is my wife, and sometimes even deciding what's for dinner is a struggle. I see that struggle coming up again and again in my creative process. Whenever I debate what to work on next, what words fit best here, what canvas size to work on my next sketch, and it goes on and on. It's decision on top of decision all day long. Part of the struggle, I feel, is related to losing that other thing. Like choosing A often feels like losing B, C, and D. If we eat pizza, we won't be eating sushi. Saying yes to one project means saying no to others, even if it's temporary. Instead of the decision feeling like something positive, it leaves us with that taste of maybe I missed something else, especially if the pizza wasn't that great. Then, in our creative minds and wild imaginations, the other thing would have been much better, and we made the wrong decision. Isn't that how we all feel at times? What we often forget is we have no idea how the other option would have turned out. We can't know. Choosing B instead of A might have ruined our lives. The sushi might have been bad, and the other project might have been a nightmare. The point is, we don't know if the other choice would have been indeed better, and we can't go back in time, so dwelling on it is just another way of wasting our time. And dwelling on past decisions holds us back, makes us hesitant, and more often than not makes us stuck. Not to mention the decisions that make so little difference in our lives and still we spend a whole lot of energy on them. I recently got that drawing app, Procreate, and let me tell you, the number of times I erased a perfectly acceptable line to make it again a couple inches to the left is ridiculous. The reason why I wanted to talk about decisions is that the impact they have on our lives can be gigantic. Making good decisions throughout the day can be the difference between feeling proud and productive at the end of the day or feeling like all you did was run around in circles and wasted yet another day. This can happen because our decisions tank is finite. There are only so many smart decisions we can make in a day. It's like each day when we wake up, we're given 100 decision bill. And how we spend those decisions is entirely up to us. But if you already spent all your smart decisions at halftime, you only have pennies left for the rest of the day. So instead of choosing the healthy dinner, we choose junk food because it's easier. Instead of working on something you like, you scroll Instagram mindlessly. Instead of writing your story, you watch YouTube videos because you're exhausted and your mind needs a break. Obviously, decisions aren't the only creature eating away at our mental capacity throughout the day. There are anxieties, fears, and many other things that brings us to the point of needing that break. But decisions seem to take a good portion of it. So how can we try and save our decisions to spend them on what truly matters? One thing I came across is the idea of making one decision that removes many other decisions. I think it's from Peter Drucker, but I heard it on the Tim Ferriss show. The idea is very self-explanatory and it's simple yet effective. For me, it works well with mundane decisions like what I will eat for breakfast every day or for lunch, what I will wear, etc. For example, a while back I got tired of always having to think about my lunch at work the next day. So instead, I decided that my lunch during the work week would always be some version of a warm, nutritious salad. The leaves are all washed and kept in the fridge, and the warm component, whether that's a vegan chili or whatever else, I make it in advance, portion it, and store it. The dressing might vary, but the point here is I never have to waste my energy thinking what will be for lunch ever again. And something we often forget is that it's okay to change our minds. Most decisions are not forever. If I ever get tired of this, I can change it. This also makes me think of how much quote unquote easier it is to cut things out altogether for a while rather than consuming them in moderation, because moderation still requires decision making. Removing it completely makes it easier to accomplish, I guess. Like, I'll never eat that again. It's easier than deciding I'll eat that some days of the week. Decisions are the first step to building new habits, too, but that's another topic for another day. If we start to notice all the decisions we make throughout the day, especially those that are not in line with our creative goals, it will help us find patterns and make room for the decisions that really matter. For instance, instead of deciding the canvas size on my project on Procreate each time I open the app, I decided always to choose square, unless the project already has its requirements. It seems silly, but it's one less decision my brain will have to make before getting to the creative part of the task. The worst thing about being indecisive is that it feels like you're taking a test, staring at the A, B, C, or D choices, wavering your pen up and down. It seems like you should know the answer, but you don't. And you don't want to get it wrong because everyone seems to be getting it right. So you keep staring at the multiple choice question, completely frozen. Then time's up, your pen didn't touch the paper. By not deciding, you decided. By not trying, afraid of getting it wrong, you got it wrong. Your non-answer was as wrong as 3 of those alternatives. Not deciding is still a decision. In the words of William James, when you have to make a choice and don't make it, this is in itself a choice. And when we don't decide, the question marks keep swimming around in our heads, taking up a whole lot of space, instead of us actually doing things and giving them a try. In the creative process, it's common to dwell on things like which color palette to use, which brushes fit best, which words should I use, should it be in first person or third person, and so on. Many small decisions that add up to the final piece. This reminds me of the comedian Hannah Gadsby and her special on Netflix. I think it's called Douglas. It's a masterpiece, but that's not the subject for the day. If you have time, you should watch it. Anyway, each day that goes by, it becomes more and more evident to me how all that dwelling is just a waste of time. I won't really know which color palette is best until I see it in front of me. I won't know if the third person is the way to go until I write it out. Decisions don't have to be final. If we can't choose, and that's stopping you from actually doing something, maybe find a way to do both. When you don't make a decision on what to do, you're deciding to do nothing. So instead, choose something or both and just roll with it. With the project in front of you, things become more palpable. You can look at the work and start a reviewing process to see which choice actually fits best. I've found that the opposite can also be helpful when it comes to decisions in the creative process. On the other side of multiple options and choices are the limitations. They can help minimize decisions and still allow you to create fantastic work. For example, using a limited color palette, strictly black and white, writing with specific limitations, such as everything happens in one room, or the entire story has only 3 characters, or the poem has only 10 lines. I could go on for days. Like, you can use only one brush, you can paint just one character. There's many possibilities, but the fact is that limitations can really be helpful in the creative process. The most important thing is to make a decision and go for it. If down the line it doesn't work out, reevaluate but keep moving forward. So, what are the decisions you struggle with the most? Hit me up on Instagram at memento.mori.lab and let's chat. I hope you follow me there too for some extra creative nonsense. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to the podcast and share it with your creative friends. Thanks for hanging around till the end. See ya!